Do you ever wonder how still, motionless graphics become animations full of life? We can bring characters to life in After Effects through a number of ways, and we're going to be looking at those in this section of our course. When you make an illustration, think of it as a marionette. Where would all the hinges and strings go? When we animate, we are in essence creating a puppet of the image, and we need to consider what elements need to move and what the relationship is to other elements. You need to break down the illustration into single pieces, including portions that might not initially be seen. So think if you have a character with two legs and one is in the front of the other, you might not initially see both. But if you want to create a walk cycle, you're going to need to create both elements. When we bring the artwork into After Effects, we rig it. This is the process of creating the joints and the bones. You'll need to edit the anchor points so that the items will move in the intended way, and then you'll need to create the hierarchy by parenting the various parts together. So when one part moves, it'll move all of the related parts. Once the character has its bones, then we can begin adding motion. Let's take a look at how we can do this. We'll start off by using a simple character. I'll be creating a walk cycle for this flamingo. I did want to show you how I've set up the layers so that you're familiar with the file prior to me bringing it in to After Effects. If we look at our layers, you can see I have quite a few layers, and I'll just turn them all off so that we can see what's happening. To start off with, I have a background layer. I'm not going to be animating any of these elements, so they all currently exist on one layer. Then I have the back leg. It's made up of several different pieces. I have the foot, the shin, the thigh, the hip joint, and the knee joint. I have a similar type of breakdown for the front leg. Here's my front foot, front shin, thigh, knee, and the hip joint. Then you can see I have the neck of my flamingo, and here's the body. The reason I wanted the neck on its own layer is because we will ultimately be adding animation to that as well. You can also see I have a beak and an eye, and then I just have some other elements like a semi-transparent water, and then I have some plants that are just helping to create the jungle ambiance or mood in my file. Let's save this and jump into After Effects. Here in After Effects, I'm going to begin by importing in my footage. I'll double click in the project window, and I'm going to navigate to my Illustrator file. I'll select the file, and then I'm going to bring it in as a composition, and I'm going to retain layer sizes. I'll click Open. After Effects brings in the various elements, and it makes a new composition for me. I'll just quickly organize my project window, and then let's double click on the flamingo composition to open it in After Effects. I'm going to zoom so that I can see everything, and if we look in the composition settings, I did take time to set up my Illustrator file at the same size that I wanted to work in. In regards to the overall duration, I'm just going to make this 15 seconds for this example. Now that I changed the overall duration of my comp, I need to select all of the layers, and I'm just going to move my playback head to the end by clicking the End key, and then I will click Option right bracket key to extend all of the layers out point to the end of my composition. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the entire flamingo and turn it into a pre-comp element. So I'll select all of the flamingo parts. We're going to right click and we're going to choose pre-compose. We'll name this flamingo character and we'll click OK. Now you can see everything's been collapsed into that new composition. I'm going to double click on this so we can just concentrate on our flamingo. The first thing that I'm going to need to do is I'm going to need to organize the anchor points so that everything can move in the way that I want it to. I'll zoom in on my character, and for right now we're going to be concentrating on the legs, so I'm just going to position them into frame. Now I'm going to go through and select each of the elements and move the anchor point using the pan behind tool into the appropriate location. So when you're thinking about where to put the various elements, you want to think about how you want to articulate that particular element. If I open the property for rotation and I rotate, you can see that I want the foot to rotate using the base of the ankle as the fulcrum point. Then I'm going to move up and I'm going to select the other elements. So this is my shin. I'll use my pan behind tool and I'm going to move the anchor point to the knee joint. On my thigh, I'm going to move the anchor point to the hip joint. And then for the hip, we'll just leave the anchor point in the center. For the knee, I don't need to change the anchor point for that, so that's okay. And then I'll quickly just do the same sort of thing on the front foot as well. We're going to be doing something a little bit different on our neck and body, so I'm not going to change any of the anchor points for those elements at this point. Now what I'm going to do is I want to create the relationship between these items. We do that by parenting the various elements. So for instance, I want to be able to rotate the feet independently of everything else. But if I rotate my thigh, for instance, I want to make sure that the rest of the leg parts are going to travel along with it. We can create this relationship by using the parenting technique. I'll select the pick whip icon and I'm going to parent the foot to the shin. For the shin, I'm going to parent this to the knee. For the knee, I'm going to parent it to the thigh. For the thigh, we're going to parent it to the back hip. So now if we select any of these items, I'll select these layers and click R so I can open rotation. And you can see if I rotate the leg thigh, the rest of the elements are going to travel along with it. If I rotate the back hip, you can see that all of the feet parts are going to rotate with it. So taking time to actually set up the relationship is a very important part when you're doing character animation. You really want to think about which parts of your character need to move. And for right now, I'm just going to start with both of the feet straight down. So I'm going to make some adjustments to this back leg. Here I've moved the thigh. Then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to rotate the shin so that it's straight down. And then we need to make an adjustment on our foot. And that looks pretty good for right now. The next thing I'll do is I'll select the front foot and set up the parent-child relationship in the same way. So the foot goes to the shin goes to the knee goes to the thigh goes to the hip. And now you can see all of these elements are parented to one of the other elements within the compositions. So now we're all ready to create a walk cycle, and we'll be working on that next.